The following is a presentation of the Belly Up Sports Media Network.
Baseball season is right around the corner, and the 1420 Sports Bar Podcast and SeatGeek are on a 30-day tour with fans from around the major leagues. Listen in as we talk about where to get a bite or a beverage pre- and post-game, best place to sit at every ballpark, favorite food, favorite players, and favorite moments from all 30 stadiums from around the big leagues. It's the 1420 Fan Experience Ballpark Tour, brought to you by SeatGeek. Let's get into it. The 1420 Major League Baseball Fan Experience Tour brought to you by SeatGeek.com and the SeatGeek app. Use promo code 1420pod at SeatGeek.com today and save yourself $20 on your first purchase. Today, this is I think it's our sixth stop in the world tour here. We're heading back east to make a stop at Oriole Park to Camden Yards, home of the Baltimore Orioles, and to tell us all about the first retro ballpark that Major League Baseball had. Friend of the show and co-host of Brutally Honest podcast, Aaron Riley. How you doing today, Aaron?
No complaints. Baseball's back. I'm excited.
Yeah, I got to see a couple of games yesterday. I was tattooed to the TV when I was doing a few of these stupid little things I had going on yesterday. Your Baltimore Orioles, they look like they're going to have a pretty decent season this year. We'll get into what's going on there, but are you excited for the Orioles season a little bit?
I am more excited than years past, that's for sure. I mean, it's been bad for quite some time, so any tick up is a positive in my book.
When you're an Orioles fan and you go to a game there, what do the people of Baltimore Oriole fans like yourself, do they call it? Because that's a long-winded title, Oriole Park at Camden Yards. There's no way they say that every time. Like with Yankee Stadium, you say Yankee Stadium. What do Orioles fans call it? Is it Oriole Park? Is it Camden Yards? What do you guys call it before a game?
Yeah, it's just Camden Yards. That whole Oriole Park at Camden Yards. I don't really get that either, but yeah, just Camden Yards. That's all you need to know.
Before you get inside the ballpark, what's there to do around the ballpark? I read. Will let you've been obviously. I'll let you take this. But what's there to do around the ballpark before you venture inside?
Yeah, there's tons of. I mean, I know I've been to Phillies games. That's the only other stadium I've really been to. But to where there's barbecue outside and things like that. Kind of similar to Philly, but Philly's more so in a parking lot, where Baltimore's in the city itself. It sits right across from the Ravens Stadium there. So on the west side of the stadium, I want to say, is where there's a Pickles Pub. That's a cool spot. That place gets pretty rowdy before the games and pretty crowded and things. There is a baseball museum that sits right next to Camden Yards, which is pretty cool. I've only been in for a couple of minutes. They were actually closing the time I tried to go. I should set aside time and just go there, well in advance of a game. But normally for me, just because I'm a baseball nerd and savant, or however you want to say it, I'm usually in there for the batting practice of the other team. I've seen your Yankees take batting practice. I mean, this was years and years ago. Excuse me. And long story short, I've seen the Twins, the Yankees, Oakland A's one time. But I'll never forget Mariano Rivera threw a ball up. I swear he's looking at me. Big, probably 400-pound bastard. Got right in the way and took that away from. And at the time, that was a lot, quite some years ago. That was probably 15, 16 years old. But yeah, I like to go in the stadium when the other team's taking BP. It's just it's a spectacle, man. Those guys make it look so easy.
It is crazy how they hit a ball. Isn't that the Babe Ruth Museum right there? That's probably the one you're talking about.
I think that is. Yeah.
The Babe
You're probably
Ruth
right.
birthplace or whatever it is.
Yeah. I think you're right.
Yeah, I
don't
gotta get my Yankee
either.
feet in there no matter what, no matter how many times we do this. So you were talking about Pickles Pub. I heard that place is crazy, gets packed. It's almost impossible to even get a spot in there if you're not there 3 or 4 hours before. But then out on, was it Utah Street? There's good barbecue and stuff before you get into the building. I've heard.
Yep. Utah Street. The trains run right into the stadium there. I mean, there is Inner Harbor as well, and there's bars and things like that. Used to be the ESPN zone, but I think that closed down quite a few years ago. But
Inner Harbor a few years ago. Yeah, all those ESPNs.
Right. Inner Harbor's cool, but it's a little bit of a walk. Like if you want to be right at the stadium for game time, you gotta go well in advance, because I mean you got a little bit of a walk down there from the main part of Inner Harbor and where the aquarium and things like that are.
Is the neighborhood, because a lot of these places they were built in some pretty shady spots. Is the neighborhood okay? Like if you get after, like before a game, things aren't usually too bad in most of these cities across the United States. But you find the odd place that maybe you shouldn't. And I've read that Baltimore isn't the safest town in America. What's the neighborhood like in general? Is it safe to just walk around after a game?
Yeah, it's kind of it's like the main drag of the city, so it's not so bad. I mean, the much like any city, especially that I've been to in America, that is the homeless problem is really really bad. Like as soon as you come out of the parking garage, there's like a mall right downtown in Baltimore, and there's homeless everywhere, unfortunately, and that's a sad sight to see. But the neighborhood itself seems to be okay. I mean, I wouldn't really try and venture out too far.
Two,
Uh,
2 block perimeter, yeah, it's kind of one of those deals.
Right,
Yeah.
right, that type of thing. But yeah, it's all right. It's not terrible. It's like I said, it's in the main part of the city, so it's a high traffic area.
Before you get to your seat and you're actually inside the gate walking around before you, and like maybe after batting practice when they're getting the field done, what's there to see inside Camden Yards that you walk around? Is there an Orioles Hall of Fame? What they got going on inside?
Yeah, the shoot, now I'm drawing a blank. It's too early in the morning. You got me here,
Yeah.
but no. And as soon as you get in, like if you're coming in from the street there, you can see where everybody's hit a home run down the right field line there. That's pretty cool. Like they have, it's almost like Hollywood with those star plaques. They have the little baseball plaques
Okay.
of like where the balls have landed. Oh, it's the warehouse. That's what I was thinking of. The warehouse
B
is
and O or
basically,
something. B and some. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I know what you're
yeah,
talking
yeah.
about.
They have a really nice store there. I mean, it's a team store, but it's really not. That's something to see. In center field, basically way out in the outfield there, they have. I know they have a Cal Ripken's sculpture. They have Boog's Barbecue. Boog Powell obviously played
Yeah.
for those back in the day. That's a pretty cool spot too. But yeah, those are like the main. The center field is where like the landmarks are. I think Jim Palmer's statue out there as well. I haven't been there. I got to get back. I haven't been there in a little bit, so I'm kind of dusting off the cobwebs a little bit.
No, that's fine. No, it's you talk about guys like Palmer and Ripken. They don't have a long, like the Orioles, as long as they've been around, they don't have a long illustrious history, so they do tend to stick to the Ripken thing. And I remember when the Ripken chase was going on for the consecutive games thing, and how they had the numbers on the warehouse across the road there. Yeah, the Orioles, they were on a roll there. Before you sit down in your seats, you get something, and you get some food, a bite to eat. What's the go-to? And don't say a hot dog, and don't say popcorn. There's got to be something that, because every park has their thing. What's the one thing that Camden Yards is almost more famous for than the game itself?
Yeah, it's probably a toss up between that Boog's barbecue or I mean just a crab. I go with a crab cake because you have to. I mean
Yeah.
you're in Maryland. That's what they're known for. So I love crab cakes. I could eat them all day and the next. So yeah, for me it's crab cake. If you're a fan of barbecue, that barbecue is really good as well.
No, that's yeah. I've heard the crab cakes is just something else. And like I said, you can go to all these ballparks. Everybody's got something different. So just having a hot dog, yeah, you'll probably have one of those too. But you should try to mix things up because you can have a hot dog out of your microwave for Christ's sakes. Uh, it's time to sit down. Did you have a place like when you go to games, even if you're minor league park? Do you have a place where you like to sit, where you sit down and say, "This is my seat"? Like, and you don't get the exact same seat all the time, obviously, but the vicinity. Where's your go-to spot when you go to an Orioles game?
Yeah, I've sat in a bunch of different spots there at Camden Yards over the years. I do think sitting on the home side, like where I can see the opposing dugout, that's pretty cool because you don't get to see those guys. I mean, you don't get to see even the Orioles every day as far as going to a game, but then seeing that opposing team, seeing how they interact with each other and things like that. I saw Jeter, A-Rod, all those guys in their prime and things like that. Just it's really cool to see obviously be on the home side, but then be able to see what the opposing team has going on as well. So yeah, normally first base side is where I like to be, but um, as going to a lot of those games, man, you could probably pay for an upper decker seat, and then you can quickly move down because attendance isn't the best in Major League Baseball, that's for sure.
That's one thing that's always puzzled me a little bit. Like, glad you brought that up, Aaron. Is that I mean, I know they don't want you paying $8 for a seat and then you're sitting in the luxury suites. I get that, but you would think that they would want more people sitting in seats that the TV camera is panning on, especially when behind home plate where you see nothing but empty seats. You'd think they would want more people down lower just so it looks better on television. It looks like there's more people going to games, wouldn't you?
I think so too. Especially, I mean, not even especially, like there's tons of ballparks out there. I mean, there's probably more empty ballpark, not empty, but less than half capacity than there are full ones on a weekday at least. I mean, you watch like Pittsburgh jumps out, like Diamondbacks, Marlins, like those Oakland obviously, or they just don't get the crowds, and I think that's an eyesore just as a fan itself. Like how many NFL games do you turn on and there's a quarter of the stadium filled? Like that just doesn't happen. So yeah, I wish they'd do something about that. I mean, I know Brent and I could go back and forth on how many things baseball could try and do to improve the experience or the overall, just the growth of the game. But yeah,
Let's
I
get
think it is
into
an
that.
eyesore.
Actually, let's talk that, because spring training game started yesterday. This probably won't air until Thursday or Friday. I got a little backlog going here, but spring training game started yesterday, and the MLB app right now is free until March, whatever, when spring training gets done, like the 28th. That's when they'll start charging you for it, and it's $200+ and everything else. And like I'll get my money's worth, but some people won't, and some people just don't, and I get it. The Major League Baseball finds a way every year, no matter what, and whatever technology that they have, they find a way to make sure people don't watch the game. But on the other side of their mouth, they say, "Well, we have to try to grow the game," and they bring in these rules. Like baseball just trips on itself year in, year out to make sure that people don't watch the game. Why do you think that is?
I don't get it. I know we've gone back and forth on the Twitter machine about stuff like this, and it's just it blows my mind. Like a game that obviously has kind of taken a back seat to football, even basketball in some markets. And like if I'm baseball, I'm pulling out all the stops to get as many people to watch the game as possible. Like, how are you going to grow the game if you can't even have the ability to watch the game? Like that's asinine to me. And it's a shame. They got to do something. I mean, I appreciate the fact that they're doing these rule changes to try and get the interest of the younger generation, that is. But I don't even know if it really plays a huge part in that. I like we can talk about that too, but it's
Well, that's just it, Aaron, is that if you can't physically watch a game, then what is the point of changing the rules? Like
right.
if you're trying to get this demographic from, like I talked to Adam Kowalski from Chicago yesterday, and he was saying they're like the state of Iowa can't watch a lot of games because of all the blackout rules that happen. So you're forced to go to the game. But if you're forced to go to something you haven't watched, why would you go? Like it doesn't make any sense. Because baseball is it's a very regional sport, and every team has their, like if you're in New York, usually a Yankee guy, and if you're in your area, you're a Baltimore or a Philly guy, and it's just you don't really follow teams across the country. So if you can't see a game in your region because of blackouts and people don't have cable and they don't want to spend the $250 or whatever it is for the app, then you're not changing the rules to say we want the younger generation to watch. Don't talk out of both sides of your mouth.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I don't understand why they don't figure that type of thing out. I mean, it's only going to drive in more revenue, more eyeballs, more advertising. Like you would think that's common sense. I don't know if it's like a network to network problem. I know the Yes Network is like the Mac Daddy of all of them, probably. That and I think it's Nesson with the Red Sox. They do a really good job as well. But I mean, some of these networks, like I know the Phillies, I catch their games because I can see more of their games than the Orioles games, which is fine. But they're on CBS Sports Philadelphia, which is a whole hub. Like they cover the Sixers, Eagles, Fly, everybody. So the fact that like I don't know, like you turn on, like I know they have those Saturday games on Fox, I want to say, during the regular season, but like the NFL is like every game's on CBS, every game's on Fox, or every game's on ESPN. I don't know why it can't be, even if it's MLB Network, like they have to do something where they integrate everybody in the picture, where if I want to turn on the Pirates game, I can turn on the Pirates game. If I want to turn on the Padres game, I can turn on that, like I just don't get why it has to be a market by market thing. And there's even times the Phillies are blacked out or the Orioles are blacked out in my market, and then I end up watching the Mets or something. It's like I don't. What sense does that make?
Like you look at like how the swing and the miss that they have with that Bally Sports, how a lot of those networks are shutting down, and like I know like there's like we'll talk a little bit and get back to the Orioles here in a second, but there's going to be 10 NHL teams without a network as of right now next year because that Bally Sports is shutting down because they went bankrupt. So they took a swing and a miss because it just didn't work. So get the game. It doesn't make any sense. I do not understand how Major League Baseball just prevents people from watching baseball. And I don't understand it. It's you can only have so many people going to your game anyways. And if you live 4 states away or in a different country altogether, you can't get to the games. And blacking things out, like it doesn't make any sense to black a game out in anywhere. Because if you're going to go, you're going to go. Nobody really says, well, it's on TV, I'll just stay home and watch it. If you're going to go to a game, you're going to go to a game. Like how many how many asses get left out of seats because they said I'm going to watch at home?
Yeah, and I mean, you can just go to a bar real quick, catch the game, get some beverages and things like that. Like, I that's what I mean. Like, I think the NFL and I think college football have it down probably better than anybody. I mean, the NBA only really has ESPN and TNT. Like, football has. I mean, you turn on football on a Saturday, there's 50 games on.
All over.
It's like you can't compete with that. So, yeah, it's something. I mean, maybe we should be involved in the discussions on how to fix this, but somebody's got to fix it. It's for the growth of the game. Like they're doing all these rule changes to try and get the baseball crowd back involved and get the fans back involved. So why not make these games easy to find and easy to watch? Or, even if they're going to be like this, I think you got to cut the cost of the MLB the app. I think you got to cut the cost of it, and then more people will buy in at the price that it is. I mean, you got to be a baseball diehard like yourself or I to like you said to make use of it.
Because we'll get off this last little bit there, but there's a Tim Hortons coffee shop here in Canada. It's $2, $2, $2, and they make nothing but money. Right. So if you lower the price of it, you will get more subscriptions and have the same amount of money getting brought in. It's that simple. Like the McDonald's theory of thinking too. Hamburgers were they were 99 cents. Here, bing, 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 and made billions, right? And baseball just doesn't get it. Anyways, well, there's our rant for the day on a Sunday morning, but we'll get back into it. You go to a few games, been an Oriole guy for your entire life. Who was your guy growing up and how come?
Yeah, growing up, obviously, there's been, like you alluded to, all those legendary players, but growing up, it was always Adam Jones for me. I mean, I played center field coming up, quite a bit. I did like Brian Roberts a lot too, because eventually I did transition and play in infield and things like that. Really, my favorite position was third base, but less about me, more about that is Adam Jones was my favorite player on the O's. That was really like I say, the golden days, but that's when those were, at least they won the division the one year. They were competitive during that time period.
What happened to Chris Davis with the Orioles there, man? That guy, he was like, and they gave him a boatload of money, and he's actually on their payroll still. Like this year, I think he's getting $5.6 million, and that's more than most of the players who are playing are going to make. Like most of the team actually makes. So, like, what happened with Chris Davis there? Like, just unbelievable how that guy had one season. The Orioles said, "Here's 20 million," and that was it. Like, is there a story behind that I'm unaware of?
I know. I think that's about it. And maybe that's the reason their ownership is so abysmal now, as far as trying to spend money, and maybe they're terrified that the same thing might happen again. But that's really stupid anyway. Like, they're billionaires; they can afford to write a couple checks. But that's a different discussion. But he phased out.
Don't worry about that.
He phased out real quick. I don't know why they didn't learn from the Phillies. I mean, you've watched the Phillies pay Ryan Howard, and then he very quickly declined. 3-4 years later, he was nothing and then out of the league. So I'm not a big fan of paying these power hitters. I mean, you guys kind of have you kind of have Jesus there in Yankee land with Judge. He can hit for average. He can hit for home runs. He can throw people out from right. I mean, the shallow right field you guys do have. I'll say that, but no, Judge is one of those guys I would throw the paycheck or the checkbook at, but Chris Davis was pure, like all that guy did was mash the ball. So if he started striking out, he's going to strike out for 2 weeks straight. It's not like Judge can hit for singles, doubles, and play a great outfield. Chris Davis is just a big guy playing first base and jacking home runs like like a power hitter does. So stupid decision on their part. I would have rather them let him walk. I mean, hindsight's 2020, but I'm not a big fan of. I'd rather get a team full of guys that get on base, like a Harrison Bader. I like that type of player more than I like one guy that you're depending on hitting a 3-run home run every time.
Yeah, Davis, oh man, he was went from hero to zero quick. Like he was striking out like 200 plus times a season. It was just like, oh, here's an out, here's an out. And it was just that outside curveball that he just couldn't touch. And it was like, you could tell him this is where it's going to be. He'd still miss it. It went bad. I saw this morning, like Manny Machado was your guys' stud for quite a few years there. And he got his payday with San Diego. I read this morning, it's not official as of yet. So this might be breaking news, but Machado, he opted out to opt back into just a longer contract. What was the Machado years like in Baltimore?
Oh, he was that was. I mean, they were comparing him to A-Rod and things like that when he came up, and I mean, we kind of had that with. I'm not going to say that far, but Adley Rutschman looks like a great player, but yeah, Manny Machado. I wish we could have locked him up at sometimes. I don't though because he's a very like me player. He's a very selfish player. I don't think like Judge always talks about I'm gonna play for the Yankees, not Team USA. I think I owe that to the Yankees. I think if Manny Machado, if he's gonna make the decision that's in the best interest of only Manny Machado, not the team as well. So I did like him. He's a hell of a player. I mean, he can make any throw from third base. He's a freak, but I'm not surprised that he didn't stay. He was a big fish in a small pond here, and that's just the way it is. I was disappointed how he went out. Like he basically requested a trade 2 or 3 months into the season, with Buck Showalter still being there and things. And yeah, he just kind of left us right after the All-Star break and went to the Dodgers. And then he was the last out of that World Series, so that was kind of funny. But
Yeah.
I did enjoy his time. He was special, and it's rare you get a prospect that turns out to be that good that quick.
Because he came up really early, didn't like he was 19 or 20 years old. Like he wasn't in the minor leagues very long at all.
No, I think he was 20, but he might even been 19.
Yeah, because you don't see that very often. Like usually guys play in the minor leagues for a couple, 3 years, and it's just the way it is because they get the control and everything else, and they get brought up. And that's another thing that baseball's got to fix is that team control, and they don't sign guys, and it's just a wreck. And they come up 25 games in. Because the thing is about that, wouldn't you want to have the best possible lineup you can have? Because like I've said before 1,000 times, you can't win the World Series in April, but you can sure lose it. And you guys missed the playoffs last year by 2-3 games. Let's say if you had a guy, Gunnar Henderson, that could have played the first 10-15 games, but they want team control and everything else, and he can maybe piece together 2 or 3 wins that help your team win. Wouldn't that be a more logical thing to do? Because if you get one playoff home date, isn't that worth it?
I'll say it to you like this, and I'll kind of answer your question with a question. Like in the NFL, let's say Jalen Hurts, they put Jalen Hurts in too early, for example, and then they shatter his confidence. Do you think the same thing happens in baseball? Like if they would have brought Gunnar Henderson up when quote unquote he's not ready for that, do you think that's like I know Pedroia came up for the Sox and he was like 2 for 28 or something to start his career. But Pedroia goes on. He's probably a Hall of Fame player. So, do you think bringing these guys up too early is a mental thing?
It could be. You don't lose your skill. You lose that space between your ears, right? And that's a kind of thing. Maybe you can bring a guy up, and they have to get to maybe they stay down in Double-A or stay in Triple-A. Most guys they're in Double-A, they get called up later on, and they get to their confidence goes sky high. That's a good point, Aaron. Their confidence goes really high because they know they're going to get beat down to just level, right? Like they go way up, way up, way up. Okay, now let's get you down here, little fella. You're not ready yet, right? Because Major League pitching is way different compared to minor league pitching. So that's good. That's a very valid point. That's probably what happens.
Yeah. So like, no, I think like in a situation like the Phillies or the Yankees or the Mets, even like a team that has a lot of success, I think you could sprinkle in that guy. Like, what's that?
Not expect him to be the guy.
Right. Yeah. Like, who's that guy? Oh, your shortstop. He's getting a lot of looks right now. I forget his name. No,
Won't be
the
Dominguez.
no, the other one, the Triple
Oh,
A kid.
there's a whole bunch of them. I don't
He's
know what
like
they're doing
19.
there.
I forget. I think he's from Pennsylvania actually, or something like that. But he's getting a ton of looks right now, and a ton of press. So I think if I'm the Yankees, I mean, you play Connor Falefa until you trade him, I guess, or whatever you do with. But
I've gone 5 months without saying that fucking name. Like I've
well,
gone 5 great months. Nobody's mentioned it. Nobody's said it. It hasn't been mentioned in Yankee world. You just ruined my day. I forgot
see,
about that. I forgot he even existed on IKF.
I think if I'm in your guys' shoes or a fan of the Yanks, like if that guy could just play defense and even if he hits 200, just bring these other kids up. Volpe, that's his name, Volpe.
Yeah.
Bring that kid up. Have him play have him play 2-3 times a week, if that, maybe once a week. Get his feet wet while Connor Falefa just mans the field for the time being. Trade Connor Falefa when you think Volpe's ready, and do it that way. Like the Phillies have that same luxury. Like they have so many players at so many different positions. They can afford to bring up that AAA kid that they want to get a look at, and he doesn't have to fill a spot. The Orioles, the Pirates, these other teams, these small market teams that spend like zero money, if they bring up Gunnar Henderson, he's expected to kind of play every day almost, because it's like who else you filling in there. So that's my thing. I think if you're a team that has a lot of depth, you can afford to bring these kids up and see what they can do. But for the Orioles, I think you almost have to feel like you're all right. This kid's ready to go. Like if he falls on his face, so be it. But we put him in every position possible for him to be successful at the MLB level.
You've been to Camden Yards a number of times. You've seen some games, and hopefully there's something a little bit better. Mariano Rivera throwing a baseball to you. It's hard to believe it's been 10 years since he's retired already. It's like 2013. It's crazy that he's been gone that long. They still haven't found a closer, for fuck's sakes. But what's one of your, because and you go to a baseball game on a Tuesday night in June, something great could happen, or something that just doesn't really mean a whole bunch to anybody on a Thursday afternoon in August. What's your favorite memory of a game at Camden Yards that you go, man, that was cool? It might not mean anything to anybody else, but what's one that sticks out in your mind, Aaron?
Yeah, we went to my dad and I went to O's athletics game back. This was so long ago. I mean, this was even before that Mariano thing, I believe. Um, and I saw it was Wilson Betamete at the time, so not a big name, but
Yeah,
he hit I think it was a 2 or 3 run a walk off home run, and that was cool. I was never at a walk off before, and it was kind of a close, low scoring game, and bottom of the ninth comes up, a couple of guys get on. I'm dating myself. That's what I mean. I can't even remember exactly how it played out, but he smashes one into the right center field, and obviously they walk it off, and that's just cool to be at. I mean, when you're at a sporting event, it ends in a walk off or a buzzer beater or whatever it might be. That's kind of why you pay. I think that's for stuff like that, and it's so much better to be there than it is to watch a game on TV when something like that happens. So that was
yeah.
the highlight of me going to O's games. I went to a few Phillies games as well, and I don't think I saw any walk offs. So I went to the Phillies 10,000th loss, which that was, I mean, I don't know if you're rooting to lose just to be a part of history, but I did go to that game a while back as well.
It's not very often you pay money to see your team lose. It's not a normal thing unless you're trying to tank for whatever player. In the NBA does that, and hockey does that, and everything else. I don't think tanking in baseball is actually a thing because prospects are so far away most of the time. Like they never come out of the draft. Like and play right off the bat. Like, and it to look at a kid 3 or 4 years down the road and what they project to be, that's got to be tough because you don't know. Like you don't know.
Right, right. I like what you say it a lot is what prospects are cool, the championships are cooler.
That's 100%.
I can't agree with that more. Like, and I don't. That's another thing. I mean, we can always. There's so many things we could talk about, but I think baseball. I, I don't want to say they have to put a cap or whatever it might be, but they have to make it where, like the Pirates going into the season, like if you're a Pittsburgh fan, even I mean Baltimore, we're a little bit in better shape, I would say, but our division's a hell of a lot harder, so who knows? But it's like if you're a Pittsburgh Pirates fan, yeah, you love baseball, you love the probably going to the stadium, that looks like a great place to go to a game, but how excited are you? Are you like, wow, we have a chance at even competing? No, you really don't. So they have to make it where the Pirates fans are excited, the Padres are excited, the Yankees are excited, the Rays. Like if they could make it to where everybody has, not gonna say a fair chance, but it's such a top heavy league, and I think now more than ever.
And I've talked about, I can't remember, I've done 5 of these before getting you on here. I think it was a guy from Milwaukee, Wisconsin. He was saying that that Milwaukee is kind of, they say that they're a small market team, but the owner, and he's got a web page and he's a writer for, and he said that they have money, right? And so is the problem that the Mets and the Dodgers and the Yankees spend too much, or is the problem that the other owners don't spend enough? Because your owners got in the news, and you talked about on your podcast last week. That was a really good show, by the way. That they just don't want to spend money. They said they overachieved and underdelivered. Well, okay, whose fault is that then? If you can add a piece or two and get past the $60 million threshold, which I think that their payroll is going to be that, and that includes with Chris Davis on it. And I think they're still giving Bobby Bonilla money. That guy gets $2 million a year to not even play baseball still. I don't know how that works, but because he hasn't been around for a long time. But your ownership group, the Orioles ownership group, they basically said, yeah, we're not going to, there's no point. We're not going to win this year anyways. So then why have a team?
That's exactly what was my point. If you don't, that's what I don't know. You're never going to change things, like as far as like Manfred's not going to step in and say you got to sell the team or something like that for those reasons. But it's such a I mean, the fans pay the price at the end of the day. Like, and I think what would really make a statement is if people just stop going to games altogether. Like, I think that's the only way you're going to make a dent into these people's pocketbooks. And I mean, they, like you say, they get the TV contract right off the bat. That's guaranteed money. But if the people stop going to the game, stop buying concessions, all that went away. I mean, maybe they would change the way that they think. But yeah, I thought that was absolute blasphemy when he said we overachieved. And however you just
Underdelivered. Well,
underdelivered. Yeah, like we didn't win the fucking World Series, so I don't know how we technically, yeah, I guess we overachieved with the roster, but don't sit there and act like we're the cream of the crop. I mean, we got to compete with you guys who basically run the division now that the Sox have taken a back seat.
Yeah.
The Rays have less payroll, or they did have less payroll than us for quite some time, and they're a sound organization. They make the most of what they can do, but will they ever go on and win the World Series? It's yet to be solved. So it's just shitty, man. It shouldn't be that way. I'm not hating on the Yankees for spending money, or the Dodgers or the Mets, but yeah, like you said, all these owners have money. I mean, the movie Moneyball, he goes into the office and he says we need a little bit more money, and the owner's like, we don't have any more money, and you know that they do. So it's just such, I don't know, no other sport is I would say the gap between the good and the regular and the bad teams. And you can say, oh, well, look at the Phillies last year. They made that run and no one saw them coming, but they still have a huge pocketbook. They're well over 200 million. So
yeah, it's just crazy. Where do you see your Baltimore Orioles finishing up this season?
Oh man, it's tough. Like, I don't see the Blue Jays are that X factor. If they're as good as they are on paper, I think they could even win the division this year. I could see it with the additions that they made. Obviously the Yankees are up there. I mean, I see us most likely being right there with the Rays. Hopefully, that's kind of optimistic thinking. I'm a pessimist to the fullest extent. So I don't really know. We
think the worst, hope for the best. Yeah, that's exactly it.
Yeah, I think maybe we win 4 or 5 more games than last year. Maybe sneak in the playoffs. I would like to just see a wild card game at this point, but that's low standards, but it is what it is. So maybe 4 or 5 games better than last year, about, mid 80s, something like that.
That's the thing about the American League East. It is tough. And I mean, the Yankees, I think they took a little bit of a step back. They still can't hit. They got their pitching's a little bit better, but they in general, other than Judge, they can't hit. They got that your buddy Donaldson there, but it's tough because if you go to the National League East you got Washington Nationals, you can go 18-1 against them, right? And that can be your season in a nutshell. But in the American League East, you got so many teams that are right there licking the jar to make the playoffs. I think Boston will be a little bit better this year, but you're not going to go 18-1, 17-2 against anybody in that division. You're just not. You might get a 10-9, 12-7 kind of a deal, and that's a success. But it's a tough division, no matter, and it always has been.
Yeah, I know that the schedule opened up this year, and now everybody plays everybody basically, and they cut down on the division games, which I like. I like that idea. We'll see how that plays out, but yeah, even that NL East though, man, it's other than the Nationals, like you said, all those teams will beat up on them probably pretty bad, but I mean the Braves are stacked, the Mets, the Phillies, it's like those three teams will be beating up on each other, so. Yeah, it's tough. The AL East is no slouch, and the Jays, like we were talking about off air, like their owner has more money than God as well. So it's the Jays.
See my
They
phone
used
bill
to
every month. Yeah, that goes to that.
they used to be kind of a not a pushover, but they were not somebody you'd had any fear over, and now they're getting there very very quickly. It seems like.
No, Aaron, this was good. You ready for some extra innings?
Yep.
Is a hot dog a sandwich?
I'm gonna say, oh God, yeah, I'm gonna say yeah.
Day games or night games?
I like day games.
How old is too old to bring you? First time you're on our show, you answered this, but how old is too old to bring your baseball glove to a game for a foul ball or a home run?
You're never too old.
What else I got here? Why did Buck Showalter leave Ubaldo Jimenez in the 2016 wild card game when he? Why did he leave him in the 11th inning of that baseball game? Fill me in on that managing decision back in 2016 when you had Zach Britton on the bench. What was going on there?
That one still pains me to this day. I can remember that one clearly, but I think Buck is he's very stubborn. Like I think if he thinks this is the right move, that's all there is to it. And I guess that's what he thought. That's the leave him in there. And I mean, he got shelled, he got destroyed, and we got kicked out of the playoffs. So I love Buck, but I think he's a little. He's been around so long. I don't know if he's like an all timer as far as like his decision making. I like him as a person. I root for him. I don't really root for the Mets, but I do like Buck, but is he a fantastic manager? I don't know if I'm gonna go that far.
Yeah, I don't think like he'll probably be in the Hall of Fame your longevity wise, right? But I don't think he's an all time great by any means. Like he's that's I don't know, that's my opinion.
I like Frank. I'd rather have Francona myself than.
I think he's
Buck.
the best in baseball. I really think that he's the best in baseball. Last one, is Pete Rose a Hall of Famer? Or should Pete Rose be in the Hall of Fame?
Oh man, I'll catch some flack from Level the Playing Field from this one. I know how they feel, but I think as a player, Pete Rose should be a Hall of Famer. As a manager, no.
And I think now with the way betting is and the way they promote it, it's nonstop everywhere. I think that it's a bit hypocritical now, and I know that the Baseball Hall of Fame voting system is a bit of a joke too, the way that goes down and everything else. And because Scott Rowland's not a Hall of Famer, Hall are really good, but I don't think he's a Hall of Famer. That's right. My opinion on that one. I don't know. There's to only have one guy go in this year. I don't get it. And how guys we'll get a bunch of us together when we'll do a pre-baseball show before we get going, because that Baseball Hall of Fame, that's an absolute disaster. Aaron, thanks very much for doing this. What do you guys got going on there at Brutally Honest Sports? Great show the other day, by the way. Like, fantastic. I'm a baseball dork, so that's why I like that one a little bit more. But it was a great show the other day. What do you guys got going on?
Yeah, I'm trying to convert JD into watching baseball again, because he's a football guy through and through. I think him and Dave are more on the same wavelength there, but yeah, we're just trying to put out at least two, maybe 3 shows a week as we can, and trying to boost up our YouTube channel and things. And we're just trying to grow and try and just try different things and put our name out there. So, definitely check us out on Spotify and Apple Podcasts mostly, but our small YouTube channel will have some uploads more frequently as we go forward. But yeah, as always, you're one of the more humble and modest Yankee fans I've met. So
there's nothing worse than Yankee fans. I'll say it. I'll be the first to say it.
So I can appreciate it. You're an umpire. You're a baseball enthusiast yourself. So I can go back and forth with you all day. I love this game, and I played it all the way growing up. So it'll always be close to my heart, even though throughout the changes and all the problems that it does have, it is in my book America's pastime.
I think it's still like there's still everybody like the thing I like about baseball, and we'll get off here, but the thing I like about baseball the most is everybody at one point or another has played it. Whether you played softball or something in little league, like everybody has played it at least once in their life. And that's not even a stretch. Everybody has put a glove on and played. Some people have like there's lots of people who've never played hockey. There's lots. There's lots of people who never played basketball. There's lots. Lots of people like I never played football. There's lots more of those, right? But at some point, everybody has played baseball, whether it be even kickball or whatever in the gym. Like everybody has played, no matter what. Everybody's played some form of the game, whether it be in their backyard or at a little league field. So I think I still think it's America's pastime, and it's the greatest game in the world to me.
Yep. Yeah. The love of the sport will never go away from me. Even if my team, like I said, I'm a fake fan. I like the Phillies too, but whatever. It is what it is. But yeah, even watching a team struggle, it's still there's nothing like an afternoon baseball game. You can relax. Football is very like I'm on edge. I have to drink watching football. Baseball, you can just kind of kick back, kick your feet up, and people say it's boring, this and that. You can shove it. It's a great sport in my book.
You have to it's a thinking man's game. Some people who think that it's boring, maybe their IQ level might not be that high, but that's my opinion. I probably shouldn't have said that because I'm going to get the cancel culture and everything else. But anyways, no, Aaron, thank you very much for your info on the Camden Yards. Now that I know you just call it Camden Yards and everything else going on, and we'll have to get together before the season starts and get something together, or maybe we'll get some more belly up people going and see we can't get a big great big show going on. But thanks very much for doing this. We'll talk to you as the season gets going.
Yep. Thank you very much.
No problem, man.